Welcome to the Stack of Stats podcast. Pam Maldonado, not joined today by my girl Kelly in Vegas, but instead joined by one of my favorite people in the sports handicapping world, and that is Iain MacMillan. You might know him as more bacon than the pan can handle. Yeah, I like that introduction. It is what you might remember him most from the Bacon Bets podcast. He does great work over at BetSided. Here to preview the wild card weekend in the NFL for the playoffs. Here we are. Iain, my man, I'm so happy that we're now finally doing this. I feel like it is a long overdue that you and I get together. How has the NFL treated you this season?
Yeah, it's treated me very well. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Pamela. I got big shoes to fill for replacing Kelly in Vegas this week. So hopefully I'll do all right. NFL treated me very well this season. As you probably know, I bet on every single game, and I did pretty well. I'm hoping that will continue into the playoffs. We'll see.
272 games in the NFL regular season, 272 bets. I'm going to ask you, did you really truly wager every 272 games?
I did, yes, but I will kind of let you in on a little secret. I bet less money than people probably think. Because I mean, if you're betting on 16 games in a weekend, I'm not going to be dropping serious coin on those games. So I did bet on every single game, but it's not like I was laying down a ton of money.
This was actually the second season that you've done this, right? The 272
Yes.
bets. Is there anything that you learned from last season to this season?
Get a little bit more aggressive on the money line underdogs, especially at the start of the year. This year, I got a little bit more aggressive on those picks, and that helped a lot. I even had a winning record on money line underdog picks, so that was a big help this season. That was one of my goals coming in, was to be a little bit more aggressive with those. I was, and it was successful. So if you love an underdog, don't be afraid to just take them outright.
I love underdogs. That is what I thrive in. I love underdogs. I'm not like you. I don't always have like the major confidence to just like bet them outright. But like I love underdog bets. It's the best. It's the best
Nothing better.
Thing to bet in any type of sports betting. And I love my totals, but that's my thing. All right. So is this something that you're going to 272 games, man? That's a lot. So is that something that you're going to be doing every season?
Yeah, I mean, it worked for me the past 2 years. Two seasons in a row, I was profitable. So, I mean, I'll keep doing it until I just have a disastrous season, which is certainly possible. Even though I've been profitable now in 2 straight seasons, I'm not looking at it where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a expert handicapper in the NFL. It's very possible I do it again next year and lose like 20 units. So, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'll keep doing it at least for one more year.
And it's fun. And I feel like it like helps you with your thought process. You're speaking your thoughts out loud. It helps you develop as a better because you're seeing what's your strength, what's your weakness. And it really just, I think, helps you like you're deep diving into these every single game. So you're really just like, you're really learning different aspects of the NFL that maybe you weren't aware of before. I really do love that.
And one thing that's kind of interesting that I've learned, and I forgot to actually look back at the numbers this year and see if it was the case. I know it was the case for sure last year. I think it was the case this year as well, just based on memory. But I point out like my 5 best bets each week as well, on top of like the 16, and then I point out which 5 are my most favorite. Those actually don't even hit at that much of a higher rate than just all of my bets put together, which is something I wouldn't have expected. But like I said, I haven't looked into that yet for this past season, but I think they still hit it around the same rate. So that's something that I've learned, that even if you're confident about a pick, or at least just for me personally,
right,
they hit it at around the same rate, which was interesting. I wouldn't have expected that.
So 272 games. What was your record for the season out of that 272?
Where is it here? I don't have it in front of me. Give me 1 second. I can find it here.
It was like 57%, correct?
Yeah, it was around, I think it was 54%. The money line underdogs certainly, and another thing about the money line underdogs that's so good, especially if you're going to bet high volume, is that they help out with the juice, with the vig that you're giving up on spreads and totals, right? You only need to hit a few of them and it kind of makes up for it. So
you may have 54%, but you're still plus EV because of those plus money line underdogs. And I totally get what you're saying about those best bets of yours. I had the same problem collectively as my card. Hey, I did great, 57%. I went 4-1. I finally went 5-0 in week 18, but I went 4-1. I went 3-2. But trying to give that one game of like, this is what I feel confident. This is the NFL. It is so hard to do that. So like collectively, Bet what it is that you feel confident as a whole. Like I feel strongly about these 3 games, these 4 games, but it's really hard to like pinpoint for most people on a single game.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to predict the outcome of a sporting event that lasts 60 minutes between two teams of human beings. It's very hard to do. So try to pick one game where like, yes, this is my pick. Very hard to do. I did get my numbers here just for clarification. 151, 120, one push, only one push all season, which was very strange. 25.47 units. So it was 55.71% and 9.36 return on investment. So I've kind of set the bar with that. I don't know if I can beat that in the coming seasons, but I've set a high bar for myself moving forward.
Well, I love that. I love that you did that. And I love that you'll continue to do that. But let's get into the wild card weekend, looking at each game because there's not many up on the board. We'll start first with the Raiders +5.5 at the Bengals. The Bengals are 4-4 against the spread as a favorite. The Raiders, they are 7-4 against the spread as an underdog. I'm leaning to the Raiders here. I love the Raiders. They have been so profitable for me over the last few weeks because people keep underestimating them. And so I'm going to keep firing away until they stop, until they prove me wrong. But against the LA Chargers, it was closer than it actually was. It looked closer than it actually was, but Justin Herbert, he converted 6 of 7 fourth down conversions. That is absolutely insane, unheard of, hard to replicate. I don't see something like that happening here with the Bengals. Raiders, Bengals, what do you like?
I agree with you. I'm on the same side, but I got aggressive with some money lines this season. I'm getting even more aggressive with them in the playoffs. I'm taking Raiders outright. I got them at 2-1 on the money line. Yeah, I honestly think they're the better team between these two teams. The Bengals have kind of just become like a public darling. Everyone loves Joe Burrow. Of course, I love Joe Burrow as well. Ever since they kind of beat the Chiefs there late in the season to clinch the division, everyone just, I think people are overvaluing the Bengals statistically. They're not quite as good as people think. Both offenses statistically are very similar, but the Raiders actually have a much better defense. Yards per play, they're 9th compared to the Bengals, or 21st in opponent yards per play. Opponent yards per pass attempt, Raiders are 6th. Bengals are 21st in that as well. So Raiders have, at least statistically, have a significant advantage on defense, I think. Right. I like them in this game. I think people look at them and they just think, oh, it's the same old Raiders. They're not good. They're lucky to be in the playoffs.
Burrow. They say LSU exactly. Joe Burrow, and they're going to think they're absolutely going to run away with it. And that could very well be the case. I love Joe Burrow. I'll be honest here. I still watch that hype video from the 2019 national championship. I still watch that hype video. It's like 60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. And oh my God, it gets me hyped absolutely every single time. It's great when you're doing like cardio or about to do like a heavy lift. It's just like a great pump up video. So I can share the sentiment of what people like about Joe Burrow in this spot, but he is still the 3rd most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Cincinnati has allowed 4.5 sacks plus turnovers per game. That is 28th in the league, and that is most per game among all playoff teams. And now you're going to face the defensive ends in Yannick Ngakoue and Max Crosby, who have a combined 18 sacks. I think one thing I've been listening to a lot of people, something that I don't do. I listen to a lot of people's opinion over this week. I haven't done that all season. One thing that I think is not being mentioned here is the rhythm, is that the Raiders, they had a hard-fought game last week against the Chargers, week 18. They're ready to go. Cincinnati, they sat a lot of players out. You had Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, all of the people on the offense that matter, all of them were off in week 18. Extra rest doesn't necessarily equate to being a good thing, but I'm buying what the Raiders are selling. Derek Carr, he's going to keep this competitive. I think props-wise, I'm looking at Darren Waller. I think he could have a big game, tight end for the Raiders. What do you think about that one?
About Darren Waller specifically?
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I mean, I think this Raiders offense is completely different when Darren Waller's in play, obviously. A little bit of a security blanket for Derek Carr. About your point about Joe Burrow, I think I tweeted it out a couple weeks ago. If I said if I could come back to life as any person, I think it'd be Joe Burrow. He's just so cool. He's like every guy's dream. So I love Joe Burrow. No, but I like Darren Waller. I like Hunter Renfrow in this matchup as well. The Bengals defense is not as good as some people think. So yeah, any over prop for the Raiders offensive players I'd like.
I'm definitely going to be targeting Darren Waller. He's going to be key in this matchup for me because Waller, he posted a season high 116 yards on 7 catches when these teams played earlier this season. The Bengals, they're vulnerable to tight ends, allowing 73% catch rate. That's 26th in the league, 8.2 yards per target. That's 27th in the league, and 6.1 touchdown rate. That's 22nd in the league to this position. So Darren Waller for me is the go-to guy for this matchup. The next game, I'm super uncomfortable with. I don't know what to do with the Patriots and the Bills. This is out of the 6 games that we have, however many games there are, this is the one that I am least confident in. You have the Bills, who are 4-point favorites. The total for this game is 44. The weather is going to be a factor. I don't really think so, because in that first game, it was super windy. It's going to be cold as fuck, but it's not going to be windy at all whatsoever. Yeah. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not super comfortable about this one either, but I am taking the Bills. That first game kind of played perfectly in the Patriots' favor. And even with that being said, the Bills, people forget, like, they had a very good chance to win that game at the very end. They drove all the way down the field for a game-winning touchdown, and I think they got all the way down inside the red zone, I believe, and then couldn't quite punch it in. They score a touchdown there, they win the game, and the narrative is completely different. And also, I think that second game is a lot of better indication of how these two teams match up. Mac Jones in one of his worst games of the season against this Bills secondary, when he actually had to throw the ball more than 3 times. And analytically, and I said this on Twitter this morning, and some people kind of didn't agree with me, but statistically, the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the NFL. Statistically, you can talk about intangibles, and that's fair enough. I think the Bills are net yards per play, one of my favorite stats. They're first. DVOA, I believe they're second. A lot of analytics, they're at the top of the NFL. So I'm gonna take the Bills. Certainly not a game I'm too comfortable with, though.
I have Mac Jones to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I have Bill Belichick to win Coach of the Year. So I think I'm not looking at this on the side perspective from an entirely objective viewpoint. So instead, I'm looking to the total. I really like totals. That's kind of my strength for both college and the NFL. Would you agree that I'm seeing a lot of people on the over, but I'm looking at the under, and it has nothing to do with the weather? I think we could see a similar rush-only game plan from the Patriots because of Mac Jones, that he hasn't been entirely strong as of late with passing the ball. The Bills, maybe they're still not able to defend that. Mac Jones, his road splits, he has 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions away compared to 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions at home. He's averaging less than 200 passing yards on the road. Potentially, we could see more of a run game also from the Bills. Quarterback Josh Allen, he has 63 plus rushing yards in 3 straight games. Running back Devin Singletary, 86 rushing yards or more in 3 of his last 4 games. And the Patriots did give up 117 rushing yards to Miami's Duke Johnson and 170 rushing yards to the Colts' Jonathan Taylor. If you're playing ground game, that works well for an under. I see a lot of people on the over. Do you have an opinion?
I would certainly go under before the over. And yes, same with me. It wouldn't be about the weather either. 2 of the better defenses in the NFL, 2 of the best secondaries in the NFL. If you look at most passing statistics on the defensive end, first and second, I believe, in opponent yards per pass attempt. Both defenses are underrated. Bills lead most defensive statistics as well. Not a lot of people are talking about how good the Bills defense is. I would certainly go under in that game as well. I like that.
A fun little nugget just for Mac Jones. He is the first rookie quarterback to start in the wild card round since Lamar Jackson in 2019. He's the last rookie quarterback to win the wild card round against another non-rookie quarterback was TJ Yates in 2011. And the last rookie underdog to win was Mark Sanchez in 2009. So if Mac Jones comes out with a win here, he's potentially making some history. That could be a fun little thing to pay attention to. I'm going to stick with the under. I don't think I'm going to actually get to the window with this one. I don't know. Nobody likes rooting for unders, but that's all I see.
And also, I'll say these divisional games in the playoffs are always tough. Third time the teams are meeting against each other, they're always a little sketchy, especially when the regular season matchup got split. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Looking at the Eagles plus 8.5 to the Bucks. When these two faced in week 6, the Eagles had not found its offensive identity yet. They were still weeks 1 through 6. They were trying to go pass heavy, 58% pass rate. It wasn't working for them. They switched up the DNA of their offense. From that game to now, their pass rate is 38%. That is the lowest in the NFL. So how good of a Bucs defense are they really? You're talking about stats are skewed with the Bills. I'm starting to think that the stats are kind of also, well, you're saying regardless of who you play, what you've done, statistically, the Bills are the best defense. Statistically, the Bucs are still a really great defense. However, how good of a defense are they really, in my opinion? I'm here backing the Eagles is what I'm alluding to. And I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to come out with the outright win, but I definitely think they can keep this within 7 and maybe even like I I see your face, you're like, what? Hell no. Let me give you my case. The Bucs, they're third in the NFL in rushing yards allowed. That sounds absolutely great. But that was also aided by facing the fewest runs and the lowest run rate in the league from opponents. Since week 9, Tampa Bay was 16th in expected points added allowed per rush attempt and 15th in success rate allowed per carry. They are giving up yardage. 150 rushing yards to the Jets, 173 rushing yards to the Bills, 109 from Josh Allen alone, 83 to Jonathan Taylor, 152 to the Saints. Now you're going up against the number 1 rush team they found their DNA. This is their identity. They're going to ground and pound. They shouldn't be skewing away from what it is that they know how to do. And that is give the ball to Jalen Hurts and let him run. If Josh Allen could have 100 and plus rushing yards, absolutely Jalen Hurts can too. That's going to be what keeps them. What do you think? You already say your face at everything.
No, I actually agree with you. And not only do I agree with you, this is one of my aggressive picks. I think Eagles win this game outright.
What? Okay, yeah. You're literally like the first person that on the planet that I've heard. Okay, I am seeing everybody teasing the Bucs down, and I'm like, are we sure? Are we sure about that?
Yeah, I'm taking a shot. I got them at plus 310 on the money line. I have a lot to say about this game. I have a lot of opinions, so I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short. A lot of the things that I'm going to say are very similar to what you were going to say. Early in the year, the Eagles threw the ball a ton. It made no sense. I was recording my podcast. I was yelling into my microphone. I was like, Nick Sirianni, run the damn football. They're one of the best running teams in the NFL, and they weren't doing it at the start of the year. As soon as they started running it, they became a very successful team. They're quietly, especially in the second half, have had a very good second half of their season. I love the Eagles, one of the most bet on teams for me this entire NFL season. I think I bet on them, I think, in like 11 or 12 of their games. And you talked about the Bucs run defense. It was interesting because it was a tale of two seasons for the Bucs. The first half of the season, their run defense was top in the NFL. It was like the Saints and the Bucs in terms of opponent yards per carry. Their secondary was weak. They were like middle of the pack secondary. That's completely flipped. And now it's the opposite. Their secondary in opponent yards per pass attempt. These are the stats I kind of look at a lot is these kind of per play kind of things. Buccaneers, their secondary is now one of the best, but they're 15th or 14th in opponent yards per carry. They've been susceptible to the run in the second half of the season, as you alluded to. The Eagles covered in their game earlier this season. That was still when Chris Godwin was on the team, Antonio Brown was on the team. And the Buccaneers kind of stumbled to close out the year. They lost twice this season to a Saints team that really wasn't that good, especially offensively. They needed a huge fourth quarter comeback against the Jets. They ended up pulling away from the Panthers in week 18, but it wasn't until like late third quarter, early fourth quarter when they did it. I'm not a believer in this Bucs team because it's a very different Bucs team from last year. We saw the Bucs enter the playoffs extremely hot. They were the hottest team in the NFL. They won like 8 straight games to close out the year. That's not the case with this Bucs team. And I think this Eagles team is extremely underrated. I love how Nick Sirianni has played to his players' strengths. I will say one thing about the Eagles, though, which is fascinating about their defense. They allow the highest opponent completion percentage, but in terms of opponent yards per completion, they're in like the top 3 or something. So they allow a lot of receptions, but they keep everything in front of them. They clearly tackle very well. And I think that's going to be a bad recipe for the Buccaneers. So am I saying that the Eagles will definitely win outright? No, but I think this is, if you want a long shot underdog pick, I think the Eagles are the best bet this week. If you're looking for something 3-1 or over, you're not going to find a better bet than this. So I'm taking a shot. I'm getting aggressive. It's wild card weekend. I hope things get wild. I'll take a shot on them.
So here's a little extra to kind of give to you. You're talking about you took a plus 300, a 3-1 on the Eagles to win outright, right?
Yes.
That is mega aggressive for me, even for me. And I like
Yeah, it
aggressive.
is.
That's mega for me. Here is something that it's got my wheels turning though. And what I like that could definitely be a potential to hit, more probable than an outright win. Do an alternative line at the Eagles plus 3.5, and that's plus 160.
I like, yeah, you're getting it over that magic number of 3, of course. Yeah, I like that quite a bit.
You're getting the 3.5. You're still getting plus money, and you're giving yourself a little bit of cushion just in case they lose by 2 points or a last minute field goal that covers the 3. Oh my
God.
I love that so much.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
writing
great
it down because I want to take that later.
I mean, I am getting aggressive with this pick. I already have it locked in, and it is going to be like a stinger if I get super aggressive on the money line. It comes down to a last second field goal. It's within reach, and then they lose by like 2 or something. That would suck. So yeah, plus 3.5 at that price. Love it.
I love it. Okay, we're going to move on to the 49ers, who are plus 3 underdogs to the Cowboys. This is another game that I'm not entirely like. I'm going to be in a household of nothing but Cowboys fans. And I do this every year during Thanksgiving. I'm the only person, they're terrible in Thanksgiving games. I'm the only person who ever is betting against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That's going to be the case again. I'm on the 49ers. Cowboys against the spread at home, they're 5-3. The 49ers against the spread away, they're 5-4. Cowboys against the spread as a favorite, 10-3. That is a really fucking good record. 49ers against the spread as an underdog. It doesn't happen too often. They are 2-1 against the spread as a dog. What do you think about the Niners and the Cowboys?
Yeah, I'm taking 3 money line underdog picks this weekend, and the third one is the 49ers. I already gave the first 2 out. I will say, though, I'm a little bit nervous because everyone that I see, except for Cowboys fans, are on the 49ers. So there's that saying that public dogs have fleas. Now, I might not be a super big proponent of like those kinds of just like sayings that people have, but in some cases it feels like it's true. And if there is one this weekend, it's a 49ers because it does seem like everyone's on them. But I talk about how the favorite stats I look at are all kind of breaking down to like yards per play and things based on that. The 49ers are actually first in the NFL in offensive yards per play, which is shocking to me. I wouldn't have guessed that. Cowboys are right behind them, though, in third. But this game, in my opinion, is kind of similar to the Raiders-Bengals game, where both offenses, in terms of just moving the ball down the field, are similar. Big differences in the defense, though. Everyone's talking about the Cowboys defense because Micah Parsons, obviously fantastic rookie. He's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Trayvon Diggs gets a lot of interceptions. Is he good at covering guys? That can be argued. Really, though, overall, the Cowboys defense isn't that good. They're like 20th or worse in like yards per play. And what I think is going to be the big difference is the 49ers running game. They run the ball a lot. Everyone knows that 47.71% of their plays are runs. And they're going up against the Cowboys defense. That's 23rd in opponent yards per carry. So I think the 49ers are going to be able to run the ball on this team. One of my favorite prop bets this week as well is Elijah Mitchell over his rushing total. I think they're going to get him going. So I'm on the 49ers. This one does make me nervous just because of how many people I see are. It seems a little too obvious.
You're talking about the running game for San Francisco. I want to also talk about their passing game. They are known for having a great rushing attack, but they actually led the NFL in yards per passing play, gaining almost 2 yards over their opponent. San Francisco also led in the NFL. I talk about if I'm taking a dog, it's because I know that they're going to be able to put up points. They're going to be able to, if they're falling from behind, they're able to come back. Well, San Francisco led the NFL in red zone conversion rate at nearly 67%. That's huge. And that's why we saw them last week come back against the Rams. They're already prepped. They're coming into this ready. They've already gotten it. They've already got like that bad juju out of their system. Cowboys, it's hella good. And you're talking about that defense. Both of them are really great defenses in their own right. Dallas, they ranked third in success rate allowed per drop back, while the 49ers are fifth. So you have 2 of the best. San Francisco, also second in the league in success rate allowed per rushing attempt. That's the highest rate of any playoff team. So Dallas should have difficulty rushing against the San Francisco defense. The only thing is that Jimmy G, we have seen him.
Yes.
Turn the ball over. He has 12 interceptions this season. He has an injured thumb. He has 4 interceptions in his last 2 games. And you're going up against Trayvon Diggs, who has 11 forced interceptions. Dallas Cowboys are first in takeaways. That's scary. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, because Jimmy Garoppolo, he's such an interesting case because I do think he's overall underrated because, I mean, you mentioned those passing numbers. They're among the best in the NFL, but people rip on him. I mean, for good reason, because he just throws some bad interceptions. So it's tough. I'm torn on him because overall his numbers are good, and I'll bet on him, and I'll be watching him. And then out of the blue, he'll just have just a tail. He's good for like 3 to 4 terrible plays. Not just bad plays, like 3 to 4 terrible plays a game, and then the rest of the game he's fantastic. So he's a very strange quarterback to bet on. Actually, kind of reminds me a little bit of Matt Stafford, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But kind of that same vibe where they're good quarterbacks, but sometimes they just make a play, and it's like, man, what are you doing?
And then there's also the coaching advantage.
Yes, that's big.
Mike McCarthy? Are we really going to back him? I'm gonna feel terrible when my dad's wearing his Cowboys jersey and I'm like, go San Fran. I have to do it in private.
Yeah, I actually think like the Cowboys, even though they had a good season, I think like on paper they're a better team than what they even performed like this year. But like Mike McCarthy, I don't think the games just kind of passed him by, in my opinion. And now he's taking on Kyle Shanahan, who, to be fair, I kind of have a soft spot for him. He's the former Falcons offensive coordinator when the Falcons kind of were in their heyday there in the late 2010s. So I like Kyle Shanahan. I think he's kind of a more modern coach, and Mike McCarthy was good in like the 2000s, but I think the game's just kind of passing by a little bit. So I certainly think 49ers have the coaching advantage.
Steelers and the Chiefs. This is another game that I was like, okay, I like totals. Tell me if you agree. I love the under in this game. And I know that the Chiefs, you look at them and they're a powerhouse and they absolutely can get downfield. Mahomes can score in 2 seconds if he wanted to. I still see an under because this is going to be one of two scenarios. Either the Steelers are going to absolutely get throttled and the Chiefs are just going to kind of lackadaisy, get downfield and just like run out the ball because they're trying to stay healthy for the next round. Or the Steelers defense is actually going to make this competitive and they are stopping Mahomes. Either way, lend towards an under. The Chiefs against the spread, 8-9 as a favorite. Steelers against the spread as an underdog, 7-4 for those who are potentially wanting to back either side. The Chiefs, they are top 5 in time of possession. This is why I like the under. If you look at the drives that they have this season, 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, they are running down the ball. They are taking their sweet ass time. And the Pittsburgh offense, God, they're so bad. I love Big Ben Roethlisberger. I do. I'm a big fan. I love Mike Tomlin. I love what this team is doing collectively as a unit to get them to the spot where they are. But they are still 31st in first half scoring, averaging 7 points in the first half of games this season. The Steelers, they rank 31st in NFL success rate per play. They are 24th in the league in points per drive. That's the lowest of all playoff teams. We don't need to talk about how bad the Steelers offense is. We know how bad it is. I see an under. What do you see?
Yeah, I'm the opposite in you in terms of betting on totals. I'll only look at the total if I can't figure out anything on the spread or money line because I'm not good at totals. That was actually, even though I had a good season betting on football, I broke down how I did in each kind of bet. Totals, I lost money. I was down about 4.5 units betting on totals this season. But I would agree. In this game, I agree with all the points you made. If I were to go on the total, I would go the under. I'm gonna back. I can't bet on the Steelers. I got to back the Chiefs here. There's two fan bases that have angered this season. First and foremost, the Titans for sure. But the Steelers are number 2. Man, they're so bad.
Your fraud tweets that you send out. Frauds.
Yeah, I like to stir the pot a little bit. But the stat I like the most, net yards per play, and I'm sure you know what the stat is, but just to explain it for anyone listening, it's very simple. You take the amount of yards per play that you get on offense, you subtract the amount of yards given up per play on defense. The worst teams in the NFL in net yards per play this season. I will start from the bottom. The Texans, the Jets, the Lions, and then the Steelers, 4th worst in the NFL in net yards per play. I am shocked that they're in the playoffs. I just can't imagine.
It's the defense. They have said, Big Ben, we know you suck, so we're going to help you out.
They can't stop the run. They're decent against the passes. I mean, TJ Watt's the best, arguably the best player in the NFL right now, no doubt. If there is some kind of path to victory for the Steelers, TJ Watt just needs to go off, which is very, very possible, but they can't stop the run. So maybe there is a little bit of a matchup advantage because the Chiefs aren't really a run first team. They're obviously a pass first team. So that does actually kind of play into the favor of the Steelers, but I have to back the Chiefs here. I can't live with myself betting on the Steelers team.
For those who are skittish on wanting to back the Chiefs because it is such a high total at 12 and a half. What is it? 12 and a half. Yeah, that's a big number. Since the league expanded the wild card round in 2002, this is the largest point spread in the wild card round. So they're already telling you right off the bat
Wow.
just how they feel about the Steelers. Heavy favorites, though, a pretty good bet to be making in that spot. Over that same time frame since 2002, 8 favorites of double-digit points in the wild card round. Only one of those teams lost outright. That was the 2010 Saints. The 6 of the 8 covered the point spread. So that is definitely working towards backing the Chiefs if anybody is wanting to do so. And do it. History is on your side.
That Saints team that lost in 2010, that must have been the Beastquake game because that Seahawks team was like 7-9. Interesting.
That was it. So then I wouldn't definitely, I don't know. I can't go against this. My heart, once you're in playoffs, it becomes a little bit more emotional. You're connected to these players. Yes. You're connected to these teams. Yeah. It becomes less about the money and it becomes more of who you want to see succeed. And I do want to see Big Ben come out with a win. How great would it be for his career? He hasn't been doing well, but the team collectively has. And you already had like 2 send-offs for Roethlisberger. So for him to get absolutely throttled on his final game, that would be heartbreaking to see. So I hope for just like fanship's sake that the Steelers can make this competitive. And if they do, hey, I like the under because they were able to keep Mahomes in check.
That did actually happen to Dan Marino back in the end of the 99 season. His last game ever was in the playoffs against the Jaguars, and they lost by like 50 points, and he had just a terrible game. So, I like Big Ben as a player too. I hope he doesn't just get absolutely smoked in this game, but for my money's sake, I have to bet with my brain. I got to go Chiefs.
For player prop, I am looking to Najee Harris. The Chiefs are 31st in the league in success rate allowed per carry and 30th in yards allowed per carry to opposing running backs. So I know that Najee Harris isn't a player that the Steelers like to use too often, but when they do, he has some success. He led the NFL with 381 touches this season, including 24 touches for 110 yards when these teams played just 3 weeks ago. I think we could see similar fashion because of just how crap Roethlisberger has been. Cardinals is the final game that we're going to be looking at. It is the Monday Night Football game. You have the Cardinals +4 at the Rams. This is the 3rd time these two teams have met. They have split the wins. The second game, you had Arizona's quarterback Kyler Murray, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 14 points generated from turnovers for the Rams. The Rams won 30-23. What are you thinking about Cardinals Rams?
Yeah, it was funny that you mentioned about how the playoffs are different. You kind of back the teams and the players that you have kind of an emotional connection to. And I found that's kind of happened with me. There's certain teams this season that I've just kind of stuck my flag in the ground and I'm like committed to dying on their hill and saying that they're a very good football team. And the Los Angeles Rams probably topped that list. The Rams I bet on more than any other team is either 12 or 13 games this season. I bet on the Rams in their games. I just think they're a very, very good team. They're complete, have a very good offense, very good defense. But this goes back to we were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and Matt Stafford, and that like you can move the ball down the field all you want, but if you're going to throw interceptions, and not only interceptions in Stafford's cases, the most ill-timed interceptions at the worst possible time at the worst possible area of the field, it feels like almost every pick by Stafford is either a pick six or it comes down deep into the Rams territory. And those interceptions are just killer. And all 5 of the Rams losses this year, he's thrown at least 1 interception. And 3 of those losses, I believe, he threw at least 2 interceptions. Statistically, the Rams are a very good team. They rank near the top in net yards per play. Stafford terrifies me. But with that being said, the Rams, I've kind of put my stock behind the Rams. I placed a bet on them to win the Super Bowl at 10-1. I'll take Rams -4.
Finally, you and I are on opposite sides here. I do like the Cardinals. Okay. I do like the Cardinals because they're a great road team. In college, this is so prevalent where if there is a quarterback that is good at home and sucks away, I am paying attention to that. And more often than not, it works out. Sam Howell is one of those quarterbacks. Absolutely fucking crushes at home. Sam Howell is a beast. You put Sam Howell on the road. I want nothing to do with him. Same situation here with Kyler Murray. The Cardinals, they're a very good road team. They're 8-1 against the spread away, 6-0 against the spread as an underdog. Kyler Murray at home, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 20 sacks. Kyler Murray on the road, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 11 sacks. That is a huge difference there. And now you're talking about Matthew Stafford, who preseason, I was super high on Matthew Stafford. I was so excited to see him going from Detroit to the Rams. I was like, finally, Stafford is going to get the recognition and the love that he deserves. And he absolutely is when he's not throwing interceptions.
Right.
And like you're talking about, he does it at the absolute worst times. He has 8 interceptions in his last 4 games. He co-leads the league in interceptions with the Jags quarterback and Trevor Lawrence, who, remind you, is a rookie. And you're talking about he's not just throwing interceptions, he also leads the league in the quarterback who's throwing pick sixes. So that is,
I figured that was the case. Yeah.
So for that reason, you have Kyler Murray, who is an absolute beast on the road, versus Matthew Stafford, who is throwing pick sixes left and right. I got to go with the dog. Maybe the Rams are going to come out with a win, but I like this to keep within 4 points.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to put the Rams on a money line than I would to take them to cover a 4-point spread.
Yeah, out of all 6 games, if there is one where I didn't bet on it, it'd be this game. This game's just, Stafford just terrifies me.
And that's what I was going to ask you. What is the one game that you want nothing to do with? If you
it would have been this one. I'm continuing my strategy. I mean, I bet on every single regular season game. I'm not going to back off now in the playoffs. So I have placed my bet for all 6 games. But if there was one that if I could have a mulligan and not bet on a game, it'd definitely be the Rams and Cardinals. They just make me so nervous. Matthew Stafford terrifies me.
I agree with that. When they're up 7 points and they are trying to hold on to the ball for that, to get to that 2-minute mark, and then they make a boneheaded decision to pass, and there's a pick. There he goes running into the end zone to tie the game and go into overtime.
I just think he's so used to playing for a Lions team where he felt like he had to always force balls and force throws, thinking that when he was on the Lions, nobody, obviously Calvin Johnson was the main target, but no one was, if he didn't have a fantastic game, there was nobody else on the team that could pick up the slack and win games for the Lions. So I feel like when he was on the Lions, he felt like he always had to force throws. He always had to make the plays. That's not the case with the Rams, man. Throw the ball out of bounds. Don't force throws. You have a very good defense. You have a decent running game. Just let other guys contribute to the win, because you're forcing these throws when you don't have to, and it's killing you. Every single game, and I don't think there's been many, but the Rams haven't lost yet this season when he hasn't thrown interceptions. So please, Matt Stafford, just don't throw interceptions, please.
That's a really great observation, that perhaps he's that weight of carrying the Lions team on his shoulders for so long has carried over into this. So that means potentially that next year he'll have a little bit more trust and he could be even better than what he is now. Ooh.
Possibly. Or maybe this is just the way he plays, and maybe he'll just always throw interceptions. That's possible too.
5 years from now, we'll be looking back and be like, nope, it was just that's his game.
He's just one of those guys.
The game that I want nothing to do with is the Patriots and the Bills. I don't think I'm going to be making any bet in that game. Even if I do want to back the Patriots, even if I do want to take the under, I'm not sure. We've seen such polar offenses and defensive game plans from both times that I don't know what the third game is going to do. So then what would be your, out of these games, all the ones for the wild card weekend, what is your absolute number one you feel most strong about, best bet?
The Raiders, the first game of the slate. I love the Raiders. I mean, if you don't want to get aggressive and take the money line, I don't blame you at all. If I were just looking at spreads, the one that I would love the most for sure is the Raiders. I'm not a big just straight up fade the public person, but also at the same time, I would rather be on the opposite side of the public. And it seems like the public kind of loves the Bengals have just kind of become a public darling. And I think when you look at this game statistically, they don't necessarily deserve to be. So if we're just talking, if I was just betting spreads, Raiders would be my number one pick for sure.
I love that. That was also one of my best bets that I'm going to be saying is I love the +5.5. I'm not as confident in going against Joe Burrow for a straight money line yet. I think I may get there by Sunday, but earlier we were talking about taking the alternative line for the Eagles. You could also take the alternative line for the Raiders and take them +3 at +120. You're still getting plus money value. And you're getting 2 extra points. You're getting 2 less points of, hey, you can still have a little bit of cushion in case they don't win. I still like that option as well. I have another best bet that I'm going to take, and that is going to be the under in the Chiefs game. I really do like this one. I think the Steelers defense, just collectively as a unit, they know just Mike Tomlin, he knows what he has. it's going to be the defense that's going to keep this competitive, or it's going to be completely just Ben Roethlisberger shits all over himself, and it's going to be the Chiefs who just sit back and, all right, let's just move through the motion and get this game over with. Either way, both of them lend to the other under, and I love the under in that game. So those are going to be my two best bets. Taking the Raiders plus the points, and then taking the under in the Chiefs. The Raiders I have already bet, and the Chiefs I'm still waiting because the line went up a little bit. So I'm interested to see where it continues. But yeah, I loved this episode. I think this was a lot of fun. It's really interesting getting people's perspective because you got me thinking about things that I wasn't thinking about before. And that's why I love talking to people, and I don't do it too often. So do make sure to follow Iain on Twitter at Iain MacBets. That's IAN. I always misspell your name every single time.
IAIN.
IAIN. See? But your Twitter handle is IAN, isn't it?
It's IAIN.
See, I misspell your name every single time.
At least you don't call me Lane, because I get Lane all the time. People think the first I is an L. I get that more than anything else, and I don't even think Lane is a name. I've never met someone with the name Lane, but everyone thinks that's my name. So as long as you get that it's Iain, I'm happy. You
can follow him on Twitter then at IAIN.
Yes.
IAIN. What a twister. IAIN MacBets. MAC bets. That's Iain MacBets. And check out his stuff on both FanSided and BetSides. BetSided? BetSides.
Yep.
I'm so tongue twisted right now. It is the end of the week, and that is what happens. And you can follow me on Twitter at Pamela M35. You're talking about you get Lane, I get Pam Elam. So often. So often. And they're like, oh, your last name. Yeah. All of that, it happens. You know what, Iain, it was a pleasure to have you on. Maybe we can do this again sooner rather than later, and maybe for golf.
Yes, I was just gonna say that golf. Golf season's kind of getting into the swing of things, pun intended. So yeah, let's do it again. It was a lot of fun.
So thanks for listening in. See you back soon with the Australian Open preview tomorrow on Saturday with my favorite tennis handicapper, that is Drew Dinsick, aka Will_Capper. And that does it for another episode of Stack and Stats.